Hi, everybody. Welcome to Homo Sapiens. I come to you on this beautiful spring day with a friend sitting opposite me digitally to talk about this week's episode and oh, so much more is Cliff Joannou, editor of Attitude magazine. Welcome, Cliff. How are you?
Hi, Chris. I'm good. I'm well.
It's funny. We're going to talk a bit about aging today, and this is a giveaway. I went on a deep dive about what different clouds mean for the weather. I was chat GPTing, are we going to have a nice summer? Anyway, the thing it started doing in the past week is like at the end of every question, it goes, would you like me to tell you how you can tell from the clouds whether it's going to be a hot day or not? And I was like, yes. Cliff, how is AI affecting the world of magazines? Sorry, and I should have said editor of Rolling Stone as well. I apologize.
So I'll introduce myself. You'd be terrible
God,
at a party, wouldn't you?
God, I'm a pro.
Yeah. You're not going to get the job as my Emily. So introduce people in my ear so I know who they are.
Oh, I love that. I've
Uh,
never had that. It struck me as very glamorous to be taken around a party with someone going, "This is the da-da-da of da-da-da."
I've got my God bless him, my fiance. I keep having to use fiance. I keep calling him boyfriend.
Yeah.
He's well trained now, so he knows when we're at an event. If I introduce someone to him, then that means I can remember who they are. If
Yeah.
I introduce him to them, that's an indication that he has to get their name,
Yeah.
which I've probably just like rumbled myself a little bit too much there.
I know. I always say that to William, my husband, but he never remembers that bit. So I'm always like going like that,
Yeah.
staring. But anyway, sorry. Yes. How is it? What is AI's reputation in magazines?
I think I compare it to when social media arrived.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and everybody was apprehensive and they didn't quite know how it fitted into the ecosphere. So like 2 years ago, it was the end of everything. A year ago, we did a panel at the BSME, and there was trepidation. And last week, there was a lot more optimism.
It's a time of change, and I remember the last. So when social media came about, when MySpace was huge. I worked at MTV, and it reminds me of how when something big and new happens, everyone starts doing versions that now you look back and you're like, lol. Like, so MTV did their own MySpace. I can't remember what it was called. It was like MTV Flick or something. And you had a profile and then you could upload your music to it. I mean, it was really logical that they would do something like that. But no one was ever on it. Oh, what's it called? If anyone can remember, hello@homosapienspodcast.com. Write in and tell us.
Google it.
MTV Flax, that was it.
No, you were close.
What did I say? Switch.
Flick or
MTV
something,
Flax.
or Flick
Yeah.
something.
2006. Okay.
Even before then, though, if you think, because we're of a certain age, and we're going to talk about aging,
We'll come to that.
But like, even I remember, I finished uni 100 years ago and went traveling around the world. Went to Southeast Asia, went to Australia, did all these naughty things in Sydney, which I'm not sure we're getting into today, but
we are now.
we could do. Yeah, and then I came back and like the tech revolution had happened, like that first .com kind of explosion. And I came back, like I literally had an email address, a Hotmail address that I was like corresponding with back home. And suddenly I came back and they're all websites. I disappeared for like 2 or 3 years at the end of the 90s.
Wow.
Came back for the millennium bug, which was a big disappointment. And then entered the workforce post-uni, but the world had transformed in about 2 or 3 years since I'd been back in.
Gosh.
And there were websites you could buy things from, and there was all this investment in online. And then there was like my first media job was in a tech media PR agency, which was consumer facing. Like we did some lifestyle events and things like that, but it was a tech agency. And I got made redundant when that tech bubble burst. I think it was like
Oh
2002,
God.
2003. So again,
Right.
that's an example of something that was like an influx of a new form of media that suddenly transformed the landscape
Mm.
in the way that social media did 10 years later, in the way that AI has done now. So there's
Yes.
always something, there's always some innovation coming. And it always gets heralded, and then it's goes crazy and everyone goes all over it, and then it kind of simmers down. Like even now
Yes.
you see people like, especially young kids, my nieces and nephews, just don't use social media like maybe us Gen Xers do, I
Wow.
guess.
Really?
Yeah, like
Really?
they're not as addicted and hooked to it. My nieces have social profiles, but they don't post anything. They just use it to like look at things.
So the question we're asking here, listeners, is queer life too focused on youth? And the flip side of that is, I am 43 and I do feel a little at sea. You know what I mean? Like I do. And I think it's something that creeps up on you. So we kind of wanted to throw it all out there. And I'll just start with a stat. 78% of you said yes, queer life is too focused on youth. But then on the flip, also 98% of you said you think about getting older. So there's a real disparity there. People are really thinking about it, but they don't feel it's represented. How do you feel about it?
Um, I certainly would agree. Um,
Mm.
I think that's a cultural thing across the board. Like, I don't think it's only a queer thing. I don't think it's
Mm.
only for gay men. Like, you just look at the media out there generally, and you look at, you know, music, you look at film, TV, like you put the radio on, you know, you're not going to hear Madonna's new single or Kylie's new single on Radio 1. It will be on Radio 2. Um, the world is divided into palatable formats for different demographics.
Yeah.
We never had that 10, 15 years ago. So I think certainly the world is like that. I think it's amplified when it comes to queer men and gay
Hmm.
men and bi men. Um, I guess our culture is so young, isn't it? Like, it's
Mm.
really hard to compare it historically unless you're gonna go back to Oscar Wilde's days, unless you go back to ancient Greece, where
Mm.
they, you know, all the artworks back there historically are of younger, beautiful models.
Mm. And bringing it on a personal level, how have you found? Uh, have there been moments in your life where you've noticed a transition into becoming older, where you're like, oh, things are different?
Yes, absolutely. And I kind of feel like my life has been defined by decades really quite
Right.
sharply. Like,
Right.
and it's something you discover retrospectively, I think. Certainly,
Mm.
entirely speaking about myself now, like I'm not speaking about anybody else, because everyone's circumstances are so unique. And one of the things with gay people is that we feel like when we don't feel represented, because when we see a form of representation or when someone speaks about their experience and it doesn't reflect theirs, they automatically rally against it.
Yeah.
But certainly for me, I my teens were kind of like a lost era for me. Like, it just
Mhm.
I didn't know who I was. I was out there trying to discover myself. My 20s, I was out there being crazy and trying new things and making mistakes, thinking I knew everything, and actually realizing all those things I knew were just me trying my best to muddle my way through a crazy period of my life.
Yeah.
And then my 30s is kind of where you actually start, well, I certainly started to get to know myself and filter out the things that are not actually me and just things I'd taken on from other people. And then my 40s have certainly been my era of I don't give a fuck. Like, and actually
Yeah.
you start really genuinely letting go of the things you that don't matter as much, and you start caring less about the smaller things that you once cared more about.
Yeah. I mean, I relate so hard, and I'm sure lots of people listening do, to everything you just described there. Although the one thing I will say is that I don't think I've reached the bit where I don't give a fuck about anything. If I had to be really honest, like
When I
I
say I
think,
don't give a fuck about anything, I think it's kind of like I certainly started worrying less about the small things that I
mhm,
can't. I just start accepting the things that I can't change.
yes, I do have a bit of that.
Mm.
Could do with more. you know, it's like it's the hardest lesson, and I suppose the reason that I bring it up is because I find, don't you find every Sunday newspaper magazine has an interview, always with a woman who's 40 to 50, who says, I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks anymore. That's basically, and I'm always like, looking forward to that bit because I do. I really do. And I don't think I've had that chapter yet.
Oh yeah, I'm still concerned about my image and how I look. Like I still want to
Same.
look my best. I still there's a vanity in there, definitely. I still
But these
care
are all
about
nice
how other
human
people
things.
view me, but
Yeah.
it's kind of through this weird lens of it's more about how it makes me how I feel about it and how
Mm.
the best way to say it? I guess I'm trying to
It's for
make
you, not other
myself
people.
happy. I'm trying to make
Yeah,
myself happy before anybody else.
that's cool. And so when you were talking about your teen years,
Mm,
so we talked a bit about on this podcast before, but it feels relevant here. Someone told me about this theory of thing called queer temporality, which is where you experience things at different stages to straight people. So you often don't fall in love till later. I'm talking about our generation, maybe more, but you don't fall in love till a bit later, and things happen later for you because you were in the closet, etc.
mm,
Um, but if you link that idea to the thing that you mentioned earlier, which is like we're obsessed with 25-year-olds, music wise, fashion wise. And let's be honest, very few 25-year-olds have it all sorted. So why do we look to them for any kind of indication of anything? I've never understood that.
I guess maybe is it because we're older, so we kind of have the hindsight to think if I had this knowledge now at 25, I'd be a
Yeah.
lot more powerful.
Yeah. And is there something in there of a new idea, a new thing? It's always more exciting because it hasn't been challenged or broken yet, you know? So I think you can write an article about this, you know, and I'm not saying an article because you're an editor. I'm just saying that's often how we meet people at new, bright young things, isn't it? Like they star in a Marvel movie and then they do an interview and it's like, this person is going to take over the world. And it's like, it's all, because it's early, it's all hope and no regret. And that is very intoxicating because the truth is, it's a lumpy old road.
Yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of youth is that you can see all the mistakes ahead of them that they could make.
Yeah.
And I would love to make the same mistakes again, I think sometimes. Like the folly of
Yeah.
falling in love and you know you're gonna get your heart broken. Like, I think when I look
Oh,
back at that, like my first love when I was 20, my second love when I was 26, 27, like when
mm,
my heart was broken, it was so painful. And the extremes of the emotions that you feel on that journey are
mm,
as I'm older, I realize how valuable those extremes of emotions are,
yes.
because maybe you have less of them as you get older because you do become less adventurous, or I don't know. Like,
Yeah, the
I
highs
actively
aren't as
chase out
high.
new experiences now because I'm lucky I don't have children and I can spend more time on myself.
Yeah, I think the highs are higher and the lows are lower when you're younger, right? I think because
And
it's
you
all
think it's all going to end. Like, you really think it's the end when, like, someone leaves you at the age of 27. Like,
yeah.
I thought I'd lost the love of my life after my I think he was my first love. He was the first person I was infatuated with at 27. And when he
Oh
left me,
wow.
I was like, wow, this is heartbreak.
Yeah.
And how will I ever fall in love again?
Oh, want to give that little Cliff a hug.
Oh, he's all right.
He turned out all right,
No,
didn't he?
he just went to a nightclub and got off his tits, and he had a great time. He just needed to dance it out.
Honey, it was the 90s slash noughties. That was the answer for everything.
Yeah.
Um, well, let's have a look at some of the other stats. So we said 78% say queer life is youth focused. Yes. 98% think about aging. 85% say we lack role models.
Mhm.
72% say they worry about loneliness. And 85% of you listeners say queer people rely on friends over family when aging. So this is interesting because we talking about like role models, right? Cliff, who are our role models? Who were yours?
I mean, my greatest role model was George Michael.
Mm,
Like, as we both had the same kind of, that sounds really weird to say, we both had the same origin in terms of, like,
yeah.
growing up in London, Greek Cypriot families, our parents are first generation immigrants, growing up in the 80s, 90s. He'd only be a few years older than me if he was still with us.
Mm,
But just, I had this, before he came out, I had this weird sense that he was like me.
wow.
Like, my sister was a massive George Michael fan, like, huge. And before I was old enough to understand his music and appreciate his music and really get to know how big of an impact he had in the US as well as in the
Mm,
UK, like, being
yeah.
music was played on black radio stations because they didn't know what he looked like. They didn't know he was a white boy.
Mm,
So he
yeah.
broke all these barriers down for this white, you know, London-born son of Greek Cypriot immigrants, that I saw myself replicate him so much. And then when it was confirmed that he was gay, because people knew, they just hadn't had it spoken or verified.
Mm,
I saw myself in him even more.
hmm
And obviously, this was the era of the 90s. It was the shadow of AIDS and HIV. People still being, it was okay to out people.
Yeah.
And around that time, actually, no, he must be a few years older than me, because around that time I was coming out and I was going to gay bars and I'd be running into them. And then when I was leaving, I'd be kind of looking out the corner of the door to
Yeah.
make sure I wasn't going to stumble on a cousin or something, because I grew up in London. So
Yeah.
even though none of my family ever went into Soho, I still imagine my two aunties suddenly, like, walking around the corner with their
Yes.
shopping from Marks and Spencer's, running into me at 3 o'clock in the morning as I escaped
Yes.
freedom. Um, like, that was the real thing. That was a real fear in my head. So George
Mm,
Michael was probably one of the main role models I had that was a gay man. Um, there were other people who I loved, like Kenny Everett.
hmm
Like, I loved Kenny Everett's outrageousness and his boldness and his confidence and his unapologetic queerness. And it
mm,
really just, it's weird, when I discovered drag years and years later, it was always pub drag. It was at the Two Brewers. It was at, your classic,
yeah.
Johnny Wig telling all these, cheap gags on the stage. But it wasn't until I went to East London and met Johnny Woo and the variety of drag that kind of exploded in East London in the early 2000s, I was like, oh, that's the kind of drag I love. Kind of this off
Mm.
center weirdness that Kenny Everett epitomized.
Well, George Michael didn't get old, and there's something about that kind of they were either deemed to be outsiders or they didn't get old. You didn't have any old, there were no really sort of much older people. And I look at it now, okay, so who are our sort of role models? I don't know, like that doesn't have to be a famous person because a famous
Yeah.
person innately lives an unusual life. But like I had my godfather who was a gay man, but he died.
Oh, really?
They're not that many. And I do have a group of friends who are a tiny bit older than me, but and I love that. I love the intergenerational thing. It's interesting.
Who was the first gay man that I mean, you mentioned your godfather, but who was the first gay man that you met outside of him then?
So I'm trying to think. So it was very him based. So he was gay. He had a boyfriend. That was explained to me as if it was not a problem from a very young age. Never anything weird ever said. And then I would go and I would waiter at his parties when I was a bit older. And so I'd meet all his gay mates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That's like going to the lion's den.
yeah,
Is that the right phrase? Yeah.
yeah. Then I met John Sessions, the actor. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
When I was 14, I think he was the first gay man I ever knowingly encountered, I suppose. Actually, no, teachers at school. We had a gay teacher.
Was he out as gay? Because you couldn't be there.
Yeah. He pretty much was. He essentially
Yeah.
was. Everything but the name, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All of these people were still deemed to be outsiders, and spoken about as if they were a bit wrong. Because if I look at it now, let's think about now. I mean, Graham Norton has sort of weathered the storm of being considered avant-garde, and now is someone who is right in the bosom of national treasure, which is interesting. But yeah, I suppose I wonder if it's changed very much. Is what I'm trying to get at.
I think it'd be very interesting to see the world in about 30 years' time and just see how many of those role models who are so present now, the younger ones, and to see how long they're allowed to be present for. Because it's, pop culture is such an ephemeral thing today. So it's interesting to see, like, there are a handful of older queer gay men because obviously, AIDS took away a lot of the talent and the iconic, Freddie Mercury. There's so many, Rock Hudson. There are so many incredible openly gay men, or just who we lost. So there's a big gap in just the physical presence of people because we lost them.
And I think on a subliminal level, that tells you it doesn't last. So I sort of feel like that's why people feel at sea. Because I literally, listeners, I'm sorry, because I know I talk about this a lot, so I'll keep it brief. We'll talk about Cliff instead. But I feel the thing that's made me feel most at sea is having children, because there isn't a blueprint for it. And I don't know I need a blueprint actually, but I do feel a bit like it's been challenging in terms of that's why I have certain friends who are gay who've got kids, and I really love hanging out with them just to be able to exchange notes. And it doesn't have to be about having children, it's about doing a big thing.
But you guys are trailblazers in that respect. I mean, it's to openly have children as a gay couple, lesbian couple, or however you identify as a queer couple. This has never happened before. It is uncharted territory. And it's certainly something when I would go back to as far as the early 2000s. I never as a kid envisaged ever it being so proliferated. Like, I've got so many friends now. I've got friends who are about to have a baby via surrogacy, and I've got friends who've just had a baby via surrogacy. I've got friends who've adopted. I've got a friend who has teenage kids now via surrogacy because they wouldn't let him adopt as a single gay man, which you can do now.
Yes.
And that's radically different in the space of 10 years. So this is a whole new world for all of us. And there's a whole generation of gay men who are now growing up with a world that accepts them. There's a lot of discussion around that, obviously, how the world is at the moment. But generally speaking, we've got to consider how it feels to be a trans person, for example, all those other issues, which we must, we can probably need an entire dedicated podcast for them. But as a gay man, we are a new generation of people that are living outside of that shadow of death and demonization. Obviously, it's still there. It's not great. You see the fuss around heated rivalry about having a TV show for the first time in decades that's given us a happy ending, and how much of an effect that's had on people's psyche. So there's still a lot to be done, but we really are in uncharted territory for gay men and their future, because we just didn't really see one 15, 20 years ago.
One did probably wrongly assume that progress was a one-way street as well. So it's funny how I think having kids now is a bit like, you see the world seems to be going mad at the moment, to use a scientific term. But, you don't feel very stable in any of the rights. I'm talking about myself here, but, obviously trans people have got it tons worse, etc. But it doesn't mean that a future has opened up for us, I suppose, that is certain. I suppose that's what I'm saying.
As I've grown older, I've realized stability doesn't exist. Like, I think I lost my dad when I was 26. In a snapshot. Like, he was the healthiest, fittest man in the world. Like, he had a physical job. He ran a company, was at the warehouse every day, like with his team, doing a manual laborer's job. Like, and then got bronchitis, got pneumonia, got water in the lungs. One thing happened after the other. Was in hospital for 6 weeks, and then passed away.
I'm so sorry.
It was so quick and so sudden, and I was 26, and it made me realize, actually, the thing you believe will be there until, like, my dad should still be alive now. My mum's still alive and having going strong, but it made me realize, actually, then that there is no such thing as a guarantee in life. And the only thing you can do is enjoy everything you have around you at that moment. And it really made me pull my life closer. So that sense of stability, I don't think I've ever had it. Like, I've always felt like I could have the things that I love the most taken away from me. And I think that really amplified itself around COVID time as well. Like 5, 6 years ago, when that kicked off, I was like, oh, here we go again. Like, I could literally, my mum's stuck in Cyprus, my sister's stuck in her house in Croydon. Like, I could lose my job. I'd just taken on a new mortgage for my house. I was like, all of this could be taken away from me in a second, and it's out of my control. And I think so much of our life is like that.
And at what age, if you don't mind me asking, was your dad when he passed away?
He hadn't even turned 60. So he was like 58, 59.
Because, it's like, you think about it, and it's like, we're talking about aging here, and it's like, but assuming you get old, what a gift. And I talk to my mum about this a lot. She's like, what a gift to be old. What a gift to be creaky. What a gift, to be able to complain about your back in a way, because you really don't know. I wanted to.
I also can't wait to get to that point where I'm just complaining about my creaky back and Justifiably so.
I can't wait. Yeah, if I'm lucky enough to get there, to be like sitting in a park being like, "Get out my way, get out my way." It'd be quite fun. We asked you listeners about what surprised you about getting older.
As I said earlier, I give less of a shit.
Great.
And I hadn't seen these before now. More confident in my sexuality. Actually, that's an interesting thing for me.
Yeah.
People more interested in me than ever,
Great.
and mentally in a much better place. And this all falls under confidence increases with age. So actually, that's the confidence thing really is a powerful thing to consider.
I mean, I think I always arrive at things late in life,
Mm.
but later than ever on. But I would definitely say I am so much more confident in my sexuality. I actually feel like I only just became the gay person I was supposed to be,
Yeah.
like in the past couple of years. Look, as a child born in 1982, it wasn't great timing for the gays, although better than having been born 800 years earlier, maybe. But it's like I do think you spend a long time divesting your body of the trauma of that. And I feel like I haven't, not like it's gone away, but I feel like I've become the person I should have been.
Yeah. I think
Do you feel like that about your sexuality?
I feel like every single gay relationship out there, it's different to the next person's. There's a degree of discovery that has come with meeting what I hope to be my life partner till the day I die in my early 40s, because we are discovering new ways of sex and new ways of being intimate that I'd never had before. And I kind of maybe
Yeah.
disregarded before because of my youth. But
Mm.
intimacy means something completely different to me now than it did 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah,
And
that's magic.
I found myself actually exploring my sexual boundaries a lot more comfortable now in my 40s than maybe I allowed myself. I feel like if I was coming of age now, I'd probably identify as something like pansexual. Because
Right.
when I
Interesting.
came out, I felt I had to be gay
Yeah.
because I wasn't straight. But in the
Mm.
interim since, I've had sex with women, I've had sex with trans people, male and female, but I guess I just use gay as my sexuality, because if I was to start to explain to people I'm pansexual because I had this experience or that experience, or 10 years ago I did this, people would be like,
Mm.
oh no, you're not. You're just what are you talking about? Don't be so crazy.
Yeah.
But I feel like
Yeah.
I kind of boxed myself in because of the era I grew up in, where I had to fall into a box because there weren't that many, the language wasn't there to describe the journey of discovery that is our sexuality.
Totally. Back then, you were not going to start looking for a new adjective for what exactly you felt. The gay lily pad is what a lot of us jumped onto, despite
I
feeling
love that.
the big gay lily pad.
Gay lily pad with Kermit on there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Miss Piggy would be there, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I did as well. Like, I definitely was in a more non-binary space, but it's like no one's going to listen to me about that, And actually, I feel like that's also worn off because when Michael Stipe Klang came on this podcast, he said something similar. I don't remember now exactly what he said, but he was like, he said he probably wouldn't define himself as a gay man now if he was born now, and he said, and I was like, oh, doesn't that annoy you, kind of thing? And he was like, no, because I think defining yourself is for a younger age, and actually once you're my age, this is him, he was like, once you're my age, you sort of realize that it doesn't matter quite. Basically, what you just said doesn't matter quite so much, because why do I have to give everyone a press release on exactly where I'm at? It's like I'm in a relationship with someone I'm exploring. They understand. That's probably all the people that need to know.
I think that comes with not giving a shit.
Interesting. Yes.
Yeah, like it falls under that box because and actually that's where the joy of this resurgence of younger queer people that has really just is only 10 years young, kind of like this new age of queerness that we're enjoying. It really, I gave this example recently actually when I joined Attitude in 2015. Probably like 8 out of 10 covers were straight, usually white men
Mm,
in some soap opera or something or whatever, because
mm,
there weren't that many openly queer people. And then suddenly there, you remember we had that trans tipping point around 2014,
yeah,
15 with Laverne Cox.
yeah.
There was a gay tipping point. Like there was a general queer tipping point because all those young kids had spent their entire life being who they are publicly on socials. And then
Mm,
when they became famous because of a song or being in a TV show, they weren't going to be put back into a box.
yeah,
They weren't going to be closeted. It might have taken them an album or two or a couple of shows before they talked about their identity. So there
mm,
was still a process by which they had to kind of let the world
that's
know who
interesting.
they were. But there were the floodgates had opened, like, and I remember Ollie Alexander being this incredible kind of like light of a pop star that was suddenly just not having to come out to himself. He was already there.
Yeah,
And then it just, we just had this, and then obviously then older established artists were talking about themselves. So I feel like
mm,
we are, me seeing that certainly helped me realize that actually I don't need to conform to what has come before. I can, even in my grand old age, which is not old at all, I can also develop and change and evolve. And
yeah,
I don't have to be beholden to what I said before or how I was perceived myself to be before. And
yeah.
that is the
Yes.
nature of growth. Like,
Yeah, well, it's, I think Susie Ruffle said this to me. If you're not, or no, did she post it? Anyway, if you're not embarrassed about how you, about the way you did things before, then you haven't grown.
mm,
Um, and 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 uh, I could not agree more. And I also think I had the worst sex I've ever had in my 20s, which is when you're meant to be having the most fun, and you're not.
yeah.
And someone said mentally I'm in a much better place. Amen, sister. I didn't even know what mental health was in my 20s, and that's
Mm,
obviously to do with the times. But like, just think, yeah, I don't know. I just think like everything's much more settled as you get older. And a lot of people here. So we've got another category here, which is age perception inside queer culture that lots of you wrote in, and some people said that they something they were surprised about with aging is that they're ancient by the time they're 50. They feel they've someone here saying I've become invisible, feeling younger internally than how others see them. Do you have that feeling? Of by being older, you feel invisible in a different way?
yes.
Interesting. And
Like,
how does that manifest?
absolutely. I can really relate to these. The first point, ancient by the time you're 50, I don't feel that inside. Like, I
Mhm.
genuinely do not feel that in me. Um, but that's my long journey. This is something I've been on this journey for like 5, 6, 7 years of really e- opening myself up to growing older.
Yeah.
So it hasn't come as a surprise to me that I'm going to
Mhm.
turn 49 next month. Like it's
Mhm.
not, it's something I'm embracing, and you know, I guess it comes with also being happy in life, and being having the privilege of being happy in life. In that
Yeah.
privilege manifests in lots of different ways, whether it's in a relationship, I've got lots of friends, I've got lots of family, I've got a lovely home. Do you know what I mean? Like I have that privilege of which a lot of people don't have around them. And that's where the most important thing I could impart on people is about the power of chosen family.
Mm.
Um, be, and that's actually does worry me about younger people today because I still actively go out on the scene, to like clubs, bars, and stuff. And it's a much more ephemeral world now.
Go on.
Whereas when I was out on the scene,
Mm,
in bars and clubs, you did make bonds with people because social media wasn't there to provide an instantaneous connection. Like you think you know somebody just because you've liked 7 of their posts and you've shared a laughing cat emoji.
yes.
Like that is connection today. But back then I went through about 10,000 people I met in my years of socializing. And there's probably 10 of those people are in my life now, but they are the
Mm,
most wonderful, lovely, amazing people. So um yeah, I think I don't feel 50, but the second one, perversely, I've become invisible. I do feel. I do
wow.
start to feel. Like I went to a friend had a barbecue in August, and they're like 10 years younger than me. So I
Mm,
think generally, I don't know if this applies to everybody, but my catchment of friends is 12 years older and 10 or 12 years younger.
yeah, same.
And I have this because I always gravitated to older people. I grew up in a big Greek
Mm,
family. You had older people in your life,
mm,
whether you agreed with their opinions or whatever, how they were. But I was open to older friends. I always had older friends, and naturally, I had younger friends.
yes.
But I went to a friend's barbecue in August, and he's about 10 or 12 years younger than me. So he had friends who are equally 10 or 12 years younger than him, of which I could be their father. Like, and you could really tell how when you turn around to speak to someone who's 22, 24, 25, purely in a non-sexual way, just because I'm the person that I would chat to everybody in a room and just have a joke and a banter and be interested in people. It's who I am. It's my job. It's everything. I'm just interested in people.
Yeah,
You can see them glaze over because they're just like, why is this old man talking to me? And like
yeah,
they're looking over the room at the other 25-year-old over there that they actually probably want to fuck. And it's fine because 25-year-olds are 25-year-olds. It's they're making mistakes
yes,
as they as they get older. But I feel that more now. I feel more invisible,
yeah.
but not
It's a horrible
not in any kind
feeling.
of way where you're just ignored. You get overlooked, I guess.
Yeah, you feel irrelevant, don't you? And it's like, I don't know, I find it interesting. Like, I have a version of that, which is, I remember, okay, I can't remember if I've told this story before, but I remember being in a taxi. I got off with this guy in a club when I was probably 24, and I think he was 35. And we got a cab with him, me and my friend. And I do not come out of this story well, just to be clear. And we teased him so much about being old that we were like, you're old, just being like drunk and annoying. That when we got back to his house, he was like, you're not coming in. You two are annoying. And then we were like, oh.
Yeah.
So we've all done it. No one has, I'm sure lots of people have not been as annoying as I was, but I do remember that blankness of people just 10 years older than me, just being like, what? Who cares? You know what I mean? And I think that yeah. And then I have been on the receiving end of it now, and I find it, yeah, I don't know. I just sort of
Doesn't
go,
bother me. Like I don't care. I don't care enough to want somebody to like if someone's not going to talk to me because they perceive me as too old, I don't care. But at the same time,
no,
I do see it more now.
yeah. And you're being excluded on the basis of something that is not real. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like people just assume that once you're over a certain age, everything stops. And it's actually like the irony about it is that actually everything gets better.
Yeah.
And you could say that till the cows come home, but no one's gonna, nobody is going to believe you until they experience it for themselves. I wanted
You,
to ask,
there's a
sorry,
power
go
in
on.
it. There is a Like, there's a
Mm,
power in having that breadth of knowledge, as long as you don't let it be. I know lots of older gay guys, straight guys, whatever, who they they feel they have to assert their dominance over younger people by talking over them and not giving them
right.
space to talk. So there's also, it works in reverse. Like,
Mm,
because
that's
I
interesting.
like the kids that I work with, they call me mother. It's quite cute. Like at
Sweet.
work, like they're and like it's Cliff's mother, and I took
Oh,
one of them. We had a preview of the new Black Cap that's opening in North London.
Camden.
Yes,
Oh,
and,
fab.
I was going there when it was underage to be there, and it was the old Black Cap of the '90s. Um,
Yeah.
didn't need ID. It was like a shabby little place, but I, caught the big legends there before they either passed away or Lily Savage went on to be super famous.
Oh,
And
right. Is that where Lily Savage started?
yeah, her and it was the RVT and there. And Aaron, who was with me, our news writer, we were all the walls were all decorated with all these icons, and I was sort of just he was fascinated by the stories I was sharing, because
Mm,
he was hungry for the understanding and of what that time was like.
yes.
But then I'm also equally sit there and listen to him tell me about all these new YouTubers and kind of celebrities that on and TikTokers that are just not on my radar, but he'll bring them to
Yeah.
my attention. I'll sit there and I'll go flick through my throne and my throne.
As mother.
I'll flick through my throne,
Yeah.
flick through my phone and equally take something back from him. So
Yes.
I
I
think it really is a two-way conversation, and that's what a lot of people with intergenerational
very
differences
interesting.
don't understand.
Very interesting. Couldn't agree more, actually. I never thought about it like that. I play a game with myself where I discover someone who's like like some new person that everyone's been talking about. I'll give you an example. Rosalia, never heard of her. Don't know how I hadn't heard of her until that
Rosalia.
song. Rosalia, that's it. And when she came out the other week, and I played this game myself where I was like, I'm going to guess how many followers this person has. This feels like presenting as someone with 50 million followers, even though how I don't know this person, I don't. You know what I mean? You can smell if someone has 100 million followers, and yet you still don't know who they are. And with Rosalia, I think I guessed 50 and she had 50. I think she has
Ah,
50 million. But I mean, obviously sometimes I get it wrong. But yeah, it is a two-way street. Cliff, I wanted to bring your attention to two final things. Asking people, do you worry about being lonely when you're older? 72% she said yes.
mm.
And do queer people rely more on family and more on friends rather than family as they get older? 85% of you all said yes, listeners. Do you have what me and my husband call the wipe your bum plan? Like, do you have people who you're going to look after? Who's going to look after you? Do you have any of these things discussed?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I think there's an epidemic of loneliness that's coming
Mm,
for a lot of us, and I think it's started already because, again, going back to what we talked about before, there are there's an entire generation of men, and I'm going to use gay, bi, queer men, who lost. There were so many friends in the 80s and 90s. Like the people I love the most now, my chosen family, 10, there's probably a bigger group of about 20, 25 names who I see regularly throughout a course of a year.
mm,
Um, the reality is, if that happened now, there'd be about 3 or 4 of them left if I was lucky.
mm,
So there is this massive generation of gay men who are 20, 25 years old, that's in their late 60s, 70s, who don't have these networks that we take for
mm,
granted now. So that epidemic of loneliness is very real.
mm,
There's an activist, Ted Brown, whose partner had to go into a nursing home, and he was homophobically uh, abused and assaulted by the staff there, and he
Mm.
had to sue the government. Not the government, sorry. He had to sue the nursing home, and he won. But how awful is that to, to be spend your life out and then to go into nursing home and be in the closet?
Yeah.
So I think the loneliness is something that sits at the back of many our minds, and we probably mask it or hide it. Do I have
Yeah.
a plan? Yeah, because I saw that happen when I was a teenager, and I heard the stories as I was coming out in the late 90s and 2000s, going to clubs, going out in the gay scene. I Because I was actively, like, talking to meeting older generations,
Mm.
um, I kind of understood on a young age how important it was to create networks around us, and we've got there's 2 things. There's my friends with our Golden Girls plan, where
Great.
we all have our separate lives now. We see each other and we party together, we have fun times, we go occasionally clubbing, dinners, house parties together. There's our Golden Girl plan, where we said, why would we spend our time in our late 60s, 70s
Mm.
living in the homes that we worked hard for on our own, disparately? So we said, well, when the time comes, everyone just sells up, moves into a big house together.
Great.
And, my
So fun.
friend Corin, one of our best mates, is building a house in Alicante, like a 4 or 5 bedroom house there. I've bought land in Cyprus. I haven't got the money to build on it now, but one day in the future. My mother has a house there, which will be mine eventually. Um, and it's like, well, why can't we spend our golden years together rather than living separately? So
I
that's
love that idea.
the Golden Girl plan, which I encourage everybody to think about.
Great.
Um,
Listeners, send us your Golden Girl plan, please.
you
Hello
have
at homosapienspodcast.com. You know what to do.
And
Um,
then there is my wonderful goddaughter and my niece, who are my sister's 2 girls, who, when my sister divorced, gosh, 7, 8 years ago, after a difficult end of end to the marriage, I threw all of my life and energy into them, and I did since they were kids. Like, they are my be all and
wow.
end all. Like, I love them so much. Um, I've given them bits of my jewelry from when I was a kid and just little treasures like that.
Wow.
I spoil them rotten. They come and stay with me. I take them to concerts, and they know that they have to wipe my bum when I'm off. It's a insurance
That's
policy.
the deal. If you want the Taylor Swift tickets,
Yeah,
you wipe my bum when I'm older. Yeah.
exactly.
Well, that's lovely. We have and so I have an older friend in his 80s already who I do my best to, help out with. And then we have a group of friends who are like 10, 15 years older than us, and we're always like, you know that we're going to look after you. And I think that's a really lovely, agreement.
Mhm.
And we also joke that like they'll be really old and we'll like I'm like, you better be nice to me or I'll leave you in your chair, you know?
Yeah,
So I think that's I don't know, it feels like a really lovely bit of solidarity. I
yeah.
I love that
I
idea.
think you'd have to have, and it might never transpire. Like, we might never have our Golden Girls house moment together. It's could get hit by a
Mm,
speeding police car tomorrow. Like, but you have to have a plan. I think we owe it to ourselves to give ourselves a future, even if it's just an idea of what we're going to do.
mm,
Just so it's not a worry that subconsciously sits at the back of your head. Like, even
yeah.
if you never do it, like, well, I've got a bucket list of all these holiday destinations. I love traveling. There's all these places I want to see. I'm never going to see them all, but you
Mm,
have to have a plan. And
mm,
that's what is going to make getting older more beautiful. Like, it's just, you've got to know where you're going. and the journey will change, you know, the path will change, but have that plan.
Have a plan as a fullback. Cliff, that feels like a beautiful moment to end on. You've inspired me to get my Golden Girls plan together. All I've done is planning wiping other people's bums. Who's going to wipe mine? My children. They need to be briefed on that. Now, a few things before we end. Cliff's gorgeous cat, Thea, has joined us for community message board. So, Cliff, do you have something queer business, queer art, cultural thing that you'd like to share with listeners?
Yes, I've got 2 things. I'm going to be cheeky.
No, better, more the better.
I've got one of those personalities that I can't just have one of anything. If I have a biscuit, I have to have 2 biscuits. If I have a Haribo, I have to have 2 Haribo.
I have to have 2 packets.
Yeah, like I always have to have a double shot.
Oh, you have fuck a single.
I want a double shot of tequila,
Yes,
which
amen.
I'm gonna have shortly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so the first one I already mentioned is the Black Cap, and it reopens on the 21st of March after being closed for 10 years, nearly turned into luxury flats.
Yeah.
They had a huge battle. Actually, Zach Polanski was one of the team that fought to bring it back, but it reopens, and it's a gay bar with such legendary status that is back and in business. So go support.
And in the same venue,
in Camden. Same venue, and I've seen it, and it's beautiful.
Okay, well, that's amazing. Listeners, it was an institution. If anyone doesn't know it, should be an institution once more. That's amazing news. Okay.
And the other one is the BFI Flair Festival, which starts on the 18th to the 29th of March. And even if you can't get tickets to film, they always have tickets left over. Well, not left over. They always have tickets that are unsold or returns. So even if you can't get into film, it's worth going down there because they generally will have 1 or 2 or 3 tickets, 2 screenings that are sold out. But even just being on the South Bank at the BFI, where it gets taken over by LGBTQIA plus people, and the bar and the cafe is overrun with queer people, it feels like the start of summer. And it's just this hub of creativity of people going there watching films. And it's just lovely and beautiful. So go.
Fabulous. Okay, so that's the 18th to the 29th of March, you said?
Yes.
Marvelous. BFI Flair, get involved. I'll be heading down. Homo Sapiens will be going down. Everyone's going down. Cliff's going to go down.
I want to read Attitude magazine.
And read Attitude magazine and read Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
And also, I would like to, my community message board is a book called How Queer Bookshops Changed the World. It's by AJ West, and it's from Georgian London to present day. This landmark new book by the best-selling author AJ West reveals how bookstores around the world were the hidden engine room of queer history and the remarkable lives of the people who ran them. So it's like all these stories, they're not so very well-known stories about queer bookshops. So I have not read it yet because I've been sent a copy, but I haven't read it yet. But I just wanted to share it with everybody because I just think it's the coolest idea. And AJ West, who wrote it, he's like a Northern Irish television newsreader. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes. Funny enough, I was reading about the book just the other day. It sounds fascinating. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So really exciting that's coming around. And I tell you what, if anyone wants to win the book, write in hello@homosapienspodcast.com. First person to write in gets the book because they're sending me one. So you can have it. I also want to say this season we are supporting Not a Phase and raising money for that. And specifically, we are also, if anyone listening or knows somebody or is someone themselves who would like to nominate themselves or someone they know for gender affirming underwear, Danny from Not a Phase's company, we will get you the underwear. Just write in hello@homosapienspodcast.com, @homosapiens on Instagram. That's important. This has been wonderful. Cliff, thank you so much. We've loved having you. It's been a real delight and made me think a lot, actually. So thank you. Listeners, keep writing in. Let's continue this discussion. And YouTube, @Homo Sapiens Pod. Thank you. Lots of people signed up after I said last week, please sign up. So please do it again. If you haven't signed up, YouTube is the place to be. You can see, for example, you could watch this on video. Cliff's beautiful background, his beautiful books, his wonderful cat. Cliff, what are you going to go and do now? You said you're going to go and have a double tequila shot. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's 4:22 p.m. on a Friday as we record this. So I think I'm like 30, let me do my math, 38 minutes away from officially not being an alcoholic and having a drink on a Friday.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. I'm going to wait till 7 and then I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to watch actually. I'm going to watch film and have a pizza with my husband. Magic.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
Well
you.
done. You've been brilliant. Thank you so much. Bye, listeners. Thanks for listening. And stay in
Bye.
touch. Bye for now. Bye, bye, bye.